Troy Haynes from the space. I am here with Matt McKinley and Mark Radford. Matt from Didgigo. How you doing, guys?
Fantastic, Troy.
That's the go.
All good, Troy.
Yeah. Cool. And Mark, you're in Singapore?
Based up in Singapore. Been up here for the last 16, 17 years, actually.
Yeah, well, we just offline had a bit of a chat about your history, which is rad in the telco innovation space.
That's where it all began, yeah.
Cool. And Matt, Didgigo, based in Cairns, startup. Can you tell us a little bit about Didgigo?
Yeah, look, sure. Look, Didgigo is it's a digital documentation solution for the travel industry globally. It supports tour operators and travel companies who present complex itineraries with the capacity to present those itineraries at a very beautiful level, very creative level, full of rich imagery, mapping, video, etc. Content that the legacy systems that these tour operators are using isn't able to produce. So Didgigo has certainly being able to support their businesses to increase their conversion, make their staff life better, and also to upsell the destinations that they're selling into.
Also like a travel tourism based innovation.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
How long have you been doing Didgigo?
Oh, look, Didgigo sort of we set up a publishing business back in 2005, which supported travel companies to create beautiful print and their website content. And it was sort of a pivotal time where businesses had to get serious about producing, very inviting websites for their business. In the past they had done brochures, and they subsequently had to do both. So we solved that problem of them being able to do both print and digital effortlessly. That business evolved into supporting them to produce their documentation. And the great thing about the documentation is that it's a mandatory service for every time they need to be able to put a quote in front of their customer, they need to produce these documents. So Didgigo was the IT for it was developed over the last 3 years. We beta tested it 2 years ago and brought on live clients last year.
Yeah, awesome. And based in FNQ, like so you established business, innovated, this innovation or the startup sort of come out of an innovation from within your existing business. Based in Cairns, like what sort of challenges does that present, and how have you overcome them?
Well, it's interesting. Very few challenges, because this is a tourism location. So we can walk down the road. I can go, if I need to talk to someone who's a tourist, they're just down the road. There's people who are actively involved in the businesses who make their livelihood here in Cairns. So and the level of understanding of the industry and how people arrive, into the destination, etc. That IP is very apparent here. So there's a huge level of knowledge just in this destination about how this industry works, and consequently from that, we're able to apply that knowledge and get the feedback we need to do to evolve a world-class product in a world-class destination.
That's awesome. So you recently just closed, was it $1 million round of funding?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct. Yeah. So we have a mix of investment from Singapore, which is Mark, local family investment, and we've also been very fortunate to be able to work with the BDF to be able to support Mark's investment into Didgigo.
So that's the Advanced Queensland Business Development Fund. So it's match funding led by a co-investor. So Mark was a co-investor in that instance, is that right?
That's correct, yep.
Yeah. And firstly, Matt, can you tell us about the experience of applying for the BDF from your perspective as the entrepreneur or the founder?
Okay, look, it was pretty straightforward, really, Troy. Obviously, from our initial conversations that we had with you, you were able to make it very clear for us as to how to progress. And then when we started to work with the team who head up the BDF, they were very clear as to how the fund worked and what the requirements of it were. So once we realised that was very similar to the way that we'd actually raised our capital privately, then the two met together and synced up, and we were able to then confidently go ahead. We did have to do a pitch through to the investor QC.
Yep.
And that was a process which enabled us to elevate where we were heading, and to be able to get that validation of the business on the behalf of QIC. Yeah. So overall, it's been a simpler process. Our documentation is pretty good, so I think that's heading through on a.
How long was that time frame from deciding to apply for BDF to getting the funding or getting approved for funding?
Getting approved, I'd say that would have been less than 3 months.
So it's pretty quick, eh? That's awesome.
Incredibly quick, and I think Mark could give you. He's had more to do with raising capital over the years than I have. So you may ask him how it worked for him as an investor.
Yeah, 100%. That was going to be my next question. So Mark, from a co-investor's perspective, how's your experience with the BDF, and what was some of the attractive qualities about the BDF?
I mean, in a nutshell, it's fantastic. I think what was really appealing to us is that, of course, we do all the investment, we do all the due diligence, and analysing all the business cases, and we do all that work. And I guess the BDF is really set up to say, okay, you've done all that, and we rate you as an investor, and instead of them then starting to go through all their process, the co-investment means that, okay, we're on the hook, with BDF as far as making sure we stick to mandate, but it accelerates, from start to beginning incredibly fast. I mean, if you were to go and try and raise that money in the open market from scratch, I mean, 3 months would possibly just be due diligence before you even could get in the door. So it's a extremely swift process, and I guess if you like, the paperwork associated with that was very streamlined, and the people in at BDF were so supportive to us to assist and help. It was quite a foreign investment experience actually to traditional VC that I'd experienced.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know Eden, who's on the ground there at QIC, she does an amazing job at working both with the investment panel, but then also the founders and the co-investors to help move the investments through as swiftly as possible. And shout out to Eden doing a fantastic job there.
Yep. Well done.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was on point, just amazing. And it's the whole thing really supports a business trying to start up, because if you're not spending that time trying to raise money, you're working on your business, which is exactly where you want to be, right?
Yeah. And I guess one of the mandates of the fund, the BDF fund, is to attract new investment into Queensland. And this was your first investment, Mark, into a Queensland-based startup. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Sorry.
So no. I was just going to say, so off the back of that, so Didgigo, a couple of questions is, I know we talked offline and you're looking at another investment in Queensland and potentially bringing that to the BDF, which is exciting. But firstly, what attracted you to Didgigo? So there's lots of potential startups out there looking to raise capital in Queensland and Australia. What attracted you to Didgigo? What are you looking for in an investment?
Sure. Well, I think we often hear it, you talk about, investors always looking for disruptive technologies. Actually, Didgigo is the opposite. Didgigo is really an amazing digital augmentation of a business that's, or a legacy environment that's really suffering. So what we saw in the technology approach is, Didgigo was not dismantling something and starting off a new model. Didgigo was just really helping an industry that was suffering from an accumulation of legacy platform and legacy technology. And I guess from that first touch point, and Matt sort of spoke about travel documentation, I think Raja Blue, very much saw a whole digital path being established through Didgigo. From not only digitising, brochures and quotations, but having the mobile app there and creating a new digital journey for a travelling customer. So yeah, we saw it as disruptive in one way, but through the mechanism of really augmenting and creating a new environment to, you know, obviously a massive industry. So we saw the huge potential that we're realising now in that business.
Yeah, awesome. And so hopefully more investments in Queensland, potentially leveraging the BDF. That's exciting for Queensland.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be knocking on the door very shortly because we're, as mentioned before, we've got another very exciting one based in regional Queensland that we're committed to back, and we'd love to have the BDF involved in that for sure.
Yeah, awesome. That is exciting, particularly being a regional-based startup. So, what advice would you sorry, you firstly, Mark, give regionally based startups throughout Queensland or Australia that are looking to raise capital? Is there anything specific?
Yeah, I think regionally you can kind of I think you can fall into the trap of kind of thinking, oh, you know, I'm in a place with lack of resource and lack of support, but it's you know what we spoke about, you know, just with Didgigo a couple of days ago, is that you know we're moving into the gig economy now, and you know to put together, I don't think we have any of our startups where you actually walk in one door and they're all sitting there in a room. You know, it's the gig economy is about bringing together the best of resources from around the world and certainly internationally. And what a strong theme that came to speaking to all the guys at Didgigo is they have this amazing lifestyle and work mix, which you can't replicate in a lot of other places. And I think the message is don't think that, you know, because I haven't got that developer here or I haven't got that particular resource or how do I get started, you know, what are my first steps? It's a matter of reaching out because the network is so strong, and you know, where Raja Blue can plug in to help those companies as far as this is how you get started, this is the business plan, etc. And I guess the same work that and now we're accessing technologies all around the world, you know, to supplement the Didgigo solution, and it's all a phone call away, you know. So hopefully that's not too long-winded, Troy, but really, you can be anywhere. You can be launching an amazing tech business, in fact, an amazing sort of business anywhere in the world now, you know, because all those resources are on tap around the corner.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know what you were talking about before is that part of what you're doing with this, not Didgigo, but the new investment is bringing capital to it, but the other part is playing a huge international role in terms of distribution or getting that out.
Absolutely, and I think we've kind of touched on that with BDF and Advanced Queensland, that we're very obviously, you know, super interested in good investments in Queensland, and then very happy to play and assist with any kind of international advice, step-out role, you know, going forward. And Singapore's a great hub for that if you're looking to go abroad.
Is it still real that Singapore is like a gateway to Asia? Would you say that for a lot of international companies?
Very, very much so, because I think, first of all, culturally, it's not a vast step as if you to say, oh, you know, we're going to China. There's a real cultural divide there that is super interesting, but also is challenging to business. And Singapore's kind of a really soft step that, you know, it's very, you know, a very conventional business environment from anyone to Australia to kind of get their head around. And then the resources and the connections from Singapore, they have a massive incubator community here as well. So there's plenty on tap here. It's an easy place, you know, to get to access and understand. So the short answer is yes, Troy. I think Singapore's a great start if you're looking at international steps, even into the Americas and Europe as well.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. Matt, so
Yes.
Looking at regional-based startup, looking to raise capital, you know, it is like Mark touched on it before, like it is a decision to make, because you're taking your attention off your customers and your day-to-day, and you're diverting that to raising capital to a large extent. Like, what advice or what comment would you make around making that decision to divert your attention to raising capital in a regional sense? Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Troy. Look, we always knew that that to reach our goals and to carry out the initiatives that were very important to the success of the business, that we needed to have support, and therefore we were looking at a variety of options. And support is not only just not only just in terms of capital, but also as IP as well, and the capacity for an investor to bring in both intellectual property and corporate cousins, etc., is very important to us. So that's why we went through the process of bringing Mark on board, and we're very thankful that he saw the opportunity, but also to be able to have the partnership of QIC is enormous in terms of credibility for us, and that gives us confidence to know that we can continue to execute our plans and progress without having to be in that stage where you may be looking over a precipice, which all small businesses go through.
Yeah, cool. I know from the BDF perspective, they've tried to make the application process as streamlined and as relatively simple as it can be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to them for that. This isn't just your.
I'd echo that, if I can jump in, Troy. I just echo that in their, part of an investment is not only that application process, but the legals and the framework behind that, and they've done that a really good job there in making that as easy as possible, particularly for some companies that wouldn't have crossed that ground before. They're templating in their, it's not just cash, it's that support and the willingness to make it as easy as possible for companies to really have a solid legal infrastructure behind that investment as well.
Yeah, cool. Matt, I guess in winding up, this isn't your the BDF isn't the only support that you've received from the Advanced Queensland initiative. You've been lucky enough to be supported through other programs as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Early on in the stage where we needed to roll out that proof of concept, to be able to get in front of people who were going to use it and be serious users of the system. The Ignite Advanced Queensland
Ignite Ideas.
Yep. Yeah, Ignite Ideas supported us to get going there and to be able to do that proof of concept, and to gather the data that we needed and the feedback we needed to set ourselves up to go to allowed us to get to that stage where we could we could then go to market with the product which we could charge for.
Yeah, cool. Siri's chiming in there too, mate.
I don't know what's going on with Siri.
Classic. No, that's awesome. So I guess from a regional perspective, it's good to see, and I think the state would love to hear this as well, like the programs that they're running actually having an impact, supporting to move startups along through to this investment stage. Now you've attracted international investment to Queensland through Mark.
Yep.
So that's amazing, and looking at follow-up investments. So the programs are working. So I guess shout out to Advanced Queensland for the work that they're doing. Keep picking goals, man. You're doing some awesome work, obviously. Are there any other comments, I guess, that you'd like to sort of finish up with in terms of raising capital in regional settings, or just your experience with the BDF, or comments in general for startups and founders out there that are somewhat along this journey of realizing their dreams?
Yeah, look, I certainly say that the leadership you provide, Troy, in terms of having conversations with people to move them along the line, your insight and your recommendation and your connection into the community is really important.
Did I write that? No, I didn't.
No, but I think that's important. That it's better to have someone like you do that job than someone who may be just representing the government. I think that mentorship and all the work you do to bring people on the line is of great value. And I'd encourage the Queensland government to continue to support ambassadors like you because you're a major connecting point to this whole success of the program.
I really appreciate that, Matt. That means a lot. You can do what you do because you love it, but at the end of the day, doing what you love doesn't always put food on the table. So even that, that means a lot. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Well, as I say, it's important part of the cog of the momentum. That you're that first cog that gets the gears turning, and you do that well, mate.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Mark, any other comments? Hopefully, we'll see a lot more of you, Mark, in Queensland through.
Sure. It's one of the trips for investment I enjoy the most. So you'll indeed. Yeah, I think in basic sense, investment in startups is all about risk mitigation, and the role that the fund plays in that is massive. And we've already touched on, helping, time to market and having founders concentrate on the business and not having to worry about can they feed an employee. I think that's hugely important. So I think I'm seeing, as you say, with as Matt mentioned, kind of your involvement, Troy, the backing with some really good capital and some smart capital for investment, and the commercialisation cycle is a lot tighter, right? And that's what you want to see, and that's what encourages a really good investment community and an incubator community, is having that. And that's the role that BDF plays in that can't be understated. So it's it's a delight to be able to have a look at really good technology and be able to go to BDF with good quality propositions in that ecosystem. So it's a super job.
Awesome. All right, thanks guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for beaming in from Singapore, Mark, and from Cairns, Matt.
That's all right. Thank you, Troy.
Look forward to chatting again soon, eh?
All right, great. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Troy. Bye-bye.